Does Pierre Poilievre have a woman problem? Welcome to my channel, y'all. I hope you're having a great day. I found this article in the Globe and Mail, and I thought it was kind of interesting. Not that I agree with it, and I definitely don't agree with this woman's perspective on why Pierre doesn't come across well to women, but that could be because I'm not a woman and I don't really understand how they think about men like Pierre Poilievre. It is an interesting take, and it could explain why Pierre Poilievre's poll numbers have taken a dive in recent months ever since Justin Trudeau has resigned. So let's go to this article and then we'll talk about it.
Pierre Poilievre has a women problem. This is an opinion article by Robyn Urback. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre caused a bit of a stir online this week when he gave a shout-out to the enfeebled ovaries and low modal sperm of this great nation when addressing millennials' struggle to enter the housing market. "We will not forget," he said, during a campaign stop in New Brunswick, "that young 36-year-old couple whose biological clock is running out faster than they can afford to buy a home and have kids." Mr. Poilievre was lambasted on a number of fronts, for the implication that couples need to own a home to have children, for his apparent fixation of women's fertility, though notably, he referred to a couple's biological clock, not a woman's, and for simply being creepy and weird.
Now, I personally don't see anything wrong with what he said, and to categorize it as being creepy and weird seems to be a little bit of a stretch. He's talking about how the cost of living is preventing people from having children, and it's a fact that after a certain age, couples can't have children anymore, or there is more risk in having children. So, why does this woman, and why does she believe other women, take offense to that? It doesn't make any sense at all to me. He's talking about affordability and science. And that's all he's talking about here. If women are getting upset about that, I think it's their problem, not his. But then again, if they're not going to vote for him, then it kind of is his problem.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh took the opportunity to remind people he exists by saying, "I don't think any woman wants to hear Pierre Poilievre talking about their body period."
Well, maybe Jagmeet Singh should ask himself to anybody, does anybody in Canada actually want to hear him talk about anything? Because if there's anybody who's creepy out there, it's Jagmeet Singh. Let's be honest.
As a woman whose biological clock has more ticks behind it than in front, I believe I have some authority to respond to Mr. Poilievre's remarks. The first thing I'll say is, he's right. It's an issue at the forefront of many millennial women's minds. We want to have children and start families, but we also want to feel established in our careers, and ideally, settled in a home, before we do so. So we press pause on kids, hoping that the rate we can save for a mortgage outpaces the appreciation rate of homes in our desired neighborhood, and then sleep with a pillow over our heads, trying to drown out the ticking at night. It's not ideal. So the issue was not what Mr. Poilievre said, per se, but rather, that he was the one who said it.
So now we get to the crux of the matter, and I think this kind of exemplifies what a lot of us guys think. Some people can get away with saying things and other people can't because of the perception of who they are by, ladies in our lives. But is that really fair? He's not saying anything overly controversial, but because they don't like him personally, they don't like what he said. Does that make any sense to anybody, realistically?
That's simply because this conservative leader does not look, sound, or at all seem like the type of guy who can relate to the anxieties plaguing the millennial woman's mind, or any woman's mind, for that matter. Instead, he comes off as a distinct brand of egotistical male who started wearing suits to school in grade 12, and who listens to, and in his case, appears on, Jordan Peterson podcasts while lifting weights at the gym.
So in this reporter's mind, because he's a conservative male and he has appeared on Jordan Peterson's podcast, then women don't like him? Now, maybe it's true, but he can't hide who he is. He is a conservative, and he represents conservative ideals, which is good for Canada. The Liberal ideas have been horrible for Canada, and the NDP ideas would be disastrous for Canada. So what is she complaining about? That he's conservative, which would be good for Canada, but that alienates women. Now, that seems to be a hill that's going to be very difficult to get over.
Mr. Poilievre's supporters will protest this characterization and claim that I am being unfair, but this is less my personal opinion than merely a statement of fact. Mr. Poilievre has a women problem. They don't like him. An Angus Reid online poll conducted between March 28 and 31st found significant gaps in voting intention between men and women. Women across all age brackets supported the Liberals over the Conservatives. The highest gap was among women over age 55, with 57% support for the Liberals compared to 30% for the Conservatives, with 3 in 5 saying they view Mr. Poilievre unfavorably. Men aged 35 to 54, by contrast, said they were more likely to vote Conservative. A Nanos survey from March 30 to April 1 similarly found that women were more than twice as likely to list Liberal leader Mark Carney as their preferred prime minister.
So the women surveyed would actually prefer to vote for the really super creepy Mark Carney as opposed to Pierre Poilievre. I'm really not understanding how they classify somebody as a creep or being creepy, because Poilievre is not creepy, especially not compared to the creepy Mark's Carnage Carney.
And that 52% across all age brackets intended to vote Liberal, compared to 29% for the Conservatives.
It seems like she's trying to say that these women who were polled are voting emotionally and not logically. And maybe that's true, but where did they poll these women? Were they all polled in the GTA, large cities? Did they poll women in the rural areas, in the smaller towns, outside of the GTA? Where were these ladies polled? Because I can see that happening in the cities. I can see there being a lot of left-leaning women in the cities who would ignore logic and vote emotional. It's got nothing to do with being a woman, however. It's got everything to do with being a leftist.
The Conservative Party has long struggled to connect with women, partly because of the socially conservative faction within the party that is seen as a threat to women's autonomy on matters like abortion, partly because its perceived affinity for austerity measures is seen as a threat to social programs important to many women, in this election, for example, $10 a daycare, and partly because its leaders come off as uncomfortable or aloof on so-called women's issues. Andrew Scheer's face would flush when he was asked about abortion. Aaron O'Toole couldn't credibly sell his party's proposal to allow women to earn some income while on maternity leave. Mr. Poilievre has the air of a walking Joe Rogan podcast. It's not something that he, alone, can fix.
Kind of sounds like she's saying that being a real man is a detriment for trying to get women to vote for you. Well, Pierre can't help that. He's a real man. He's not a leftist.
The Conservatives don't necessarily have to appeal to women as much as they need to make their leader less offensive to them, thus giving women permission to go back to the NDP. They can do that by pulling Mr. Poilievre back and putting Deputy Leader Melissa Lantsman in his place, by yielding the floor more to his wife, Aneta, and not just for introductions, and by allowing incumbent MPs and moms, like Rachel Thomas, to make family-centered policy announcements alongside high-profile nominees like Karen Stintz. Mr. Poilievre can't suddenly make himself palatable to women who have already decided they don't like him. Nor should he try, please. No cheesy photo ops playing pat a cake at a daycare. But the Conservatives could at least occasionally pull back the guy who women see as the last person in the world with whom they'd want to discuss their biological clocks. There's still time to show that the Conservatives are more than this guy with the severe side part, but as the saying goes, tick-tock.
So she's offering a solution, and I'm not saying that her solution is wrong. Maybe it'll help. Maybe it'll bring up the poll numbers and help on election day if he does those things. I think, though, that this is a very interesting look into the psychology of women voters, especially voters in big cities, because I can't help but think that this is biased to big cities. Just hearing her talk and hearing her discuss these issues. Is she from the big city? Are these issues that her friends are talking about? Because it may not be the issues of all women all across Canada. But as a guy, it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that women don't like Pierre Poilievre. because he is a man. He's a man's man in certain ways, but most real women like that. They like a man to be a real man. So why don't they want to vote for him? Now, she talked about $10 a day daycare and all these social programs. And maybe that's it. Women are more likely to be leftist because they're more likely to associate to the collective and want to be a collective kind of society where men are more independent. That could be what's going on here. And maybe Pierre should engage other ladies from his caucus to help him in some of the political announcements. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. Maybe it is a good idea. I'm just not sure she's talking to the right women, or that Angus Reid were polling the right women, because I really can't wrap my head around the fact that women don't want a real man. It just doesn't make sense to me. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to know what you think. Put your comments down below. And while you're at it, please like this video, share with your friends and on social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification so you never miss another video. Also, please join me on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, both on YouTube and Rumble, for my live stream, where you're invited to join in on the conversation. Finally, if you reside on Vancouver Island and you wish to get your firearms license, I teach the required courses. So if you'd like to take a course from me, there are links in the show notes of this video to my website where you can sign up for one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.